Our final customer speaker is a familiar face here at Cority Connect. I'd like to welcome the Director of EHS Operations at Smithfield Foods, Bryn Jensson. We're just having the ladies who lunch power hour up here, don't mind us. Okay, so Bryn, tell us a little bit about Smithfield Foods and your role.
So Smithfield Foods is the largest pork producer in the world, as well as we make the most delicious pork products. So the bacon and the breakfast sausage at your favorite fast food restaurant, delicious pork chops from Walmart, wherever you purchase those are possibly from our Smithfield brands.
And what do you oversee at Smithfield? Tell us about your role.
So my role has changed. I started at Smithfield on the hog production side as a safety manager, working with our hog production sites and grain facilities there, and then have kind of grown into being in a corporate role. I help our facilities from the plant side as well as our hog production group. I help with our management system. And then one day we were starting to roll out Cority. I asked a few too many questions and became a Cority admin. As luck would have it now, most of the people within our EHS team call me the Cority Queen.
So we have the Ice King, we've got the Cority Queen. That deserves a round of applause, awesome. All right, so Bryn, take us back. Before Cority, what did it actually look like to manage EHS? Because you mentioned, there's a lot of sites at Smithfield, right? Tell us about that.
Yes, we have over 40 manufacturing locations. We have over 250 company-owned farms that are in all sorts of small locations, horrible Wi-Fi options and satellite internet things. And that was just a really huge challenge for us. So realistically, we were operating with Excel files, Word documents, banker's boxes, and hopes and dreams. We just really struggled with having a cohesive system because everybody felt that their businesses were so different. So a hog farm couldn't do the same thing that a plant that made ham. Everything was just very fragmented, very disorganized from a collective standpoint. And we really saw that when it came to audits and things, right? I was a safety manager. I remember being audited and you are getting asked for all this information and documentation, and you're stressed, you're trying to find that piece of documentation, and then another auditor asks you for something different. And so it was just really hard. We didn't have that localized system.
And I know that some facilities were really ahead, some were terrible, and then they would report things differently, right? Didn't you say sometimes one would say a slip, trip, and fall, and then the other one would be a slip and a fall, and just getting that data together, trying to normalize it?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has their own spreadsheet and their lingo, and we would try to categorize data and information, and it just never worked across the system. So trending was really very hard, and the transparency of the data was just really hard.
Okay, so you had 40 plus plants, all these farms doing things their own way. How did you actually get them onto the same system, reporting the same way, and wanting to be part of this, right? I can imagine many in this audience are fighting the same battle.
Yeah, we started really small. We really focused in on incident investigations to start because we knew we had a huge opportunity in incident investigation. How they were reported, how they were investigated, making sure that we were determining root causes, and then tracking all of the findings to a closure point. And we started to be able to provide that, categorize incidents. We started to be able to categorize our root causes. And then really got to expand that, closing all of that information to a closed action. So that's where I think the rubber really met the road, is we're actually accomplishing something and we can show that. And I think people felt really good about the progress that was being made because it was really visible to our executives. Our EHS people were very proud that they could say, hey, we investigated this, we had a solution, and by God, we did it.
but not everybody was like super willing to go in this, right? You had to have resistance somewhere. How did you handle that?
Yeah, there are definitely some resistance, and honestly, I think somewhat of our approach was just to skip right over them and find somebody that in the location that was going to champion for us. So it might not be the senior EHS person, but it might be one of the nurses, or it might be a support person who really started to dig in and take hold. And honestly, we let that peer-to-peer conversation happen. We would have, every Friday at 9 a.m., we had a Cority office hour. And we would have all of our EHS people come in and ask questions, and we would answer as admin. Some of the things we could fix, we could answer, we could train. Some of them we would say, hey, let's talk about it next week. We have to figure out a solution. But that peer-to-peer interaction was really excelled the momentum and allowed for us to be able to kind of capture that and then push those detractors into a really positive place. And honestly, some of the most negative at the very beginning started to see the wins, and they're some of our biggest champions now.
I think yesterday Ron spoke about FOBO. Anybody remember fear of becoming obsolete? You could probably ride that a little bit, right, and leverage
Absolutely.
it, because even if they're detractors in the beginning, they start to see that there's actually personal benefit in moving in that direction. So that's pretty cool. Once you got to a place then where all 40 plants were finally on the same system, reporting the same way, what actually changed? What could you see that you couldn't see before?
So we could see progress. I mentioned like the findings and actions and making sure that things were closed. But when we started doing inspections and surveys, we saw that measurable improvement. The system was doing some of the EHS people's job that they hated, going and tracking down Emily and Ron and Bob and hey, you have to get your inspection done by the end of the month. The system was doing that for them so that they could do things that were really beneficial to them. They spent time on the floor. They could work on hazard mitigation. They could do training, those kind of things that were really impactful that we just didn't have time because we were so busy on the paperwork side. We have thousands of supervisors that use MyCority, and they are entering inspections. They're doing all of the information for our root cause analysis on incidents and hazard observation and things like that. And they reported, and the transparency that we had, those are the folks that have the best ideas. And the supervisors do a great job, our EHS professionals do a great job, but the people doing the jobs, they know what the problems are and they know exactly how to fix them. So let's let them do that.
And it gives them a voice they didn't have before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot, I know, about AI. I have to ask the AI question. So the future of EHS, as you think about what's next, how does having a standardized foundation put Smithfield in a place where you can kind of handle whatever's coming?
Yeah, I'm very excited about the potential of AI. I think of things from like lockout, tagout procedures and the completion of different documents that we are required to have, especially on the environmental compliance side. Really some exciting technologies that we're excited about. But trends analysis for us is huge. We have so many different things being put into Cority. I will spend a ton of time trying to build reports and slice and dice and figure out how I can maneuver that. And I think AI allowing you to be able to put something into a system and it to spit out so that we're not spending time building a report, we're spending time fixing whatever the report is telling us.
Mm-hmm. But it's also, you talked about the importance of, AI can't find trends that are categorized differently at every site. So there is this kind of centralization, standardization piece that has to precede the AI work.
And I'm so excited that we did the work. We really spent a lot of time on like standardized codes and the cause of injury, nature of injury, all of that information on the front side so that it's going to just really be able to launch us.
I love it. All right, Bryn, so you joined the Smithfield team, you told me, with no safety background, yes, and no system implementation experience. Okay, so as you grew in your role, you assisted in building this from the ground to over 40 locations. You obviously have a functioning system that's driving a ton of value. What would you say now to all the folks in this room who are looking at fragmented operations, resistance, right, the detractors in the organization, and saying, I don't know where to start?
Yeah, I really immersed myself in whatever the jobs were that our employees were doing. I learned all of those jobs, and I really spent a lot of time observing and then asking questions about where are the gaps, where are the things that really frustrate you, what is the process that you really hate with the paperwork side, how can we streamline this, and then figure out a creative solution. So Cority has a lot of really beautiful out-of-the-box pieces, but we're very creative at Smithfield on how we use them. So the safety action plans, as Cority calls it, we deployed that to be compliant with our ISO certifications. And then most recently we decided, like, if we have an incident across the system that we need corrective actions for, we need a specific training or something, let's put it in Cority, because at a one-stop shop, our chief manufacturing officer or my VP can go in and look at it and say, okay, the 40 locations that got assigned this, there are 12 that have not done it. And with a click of a button, he can see exactly who those are and follow up with that GM, that EHS person. And so the transparency is just a really beautiful thing. And I think that when you are starting out with nothing, in no experience, and you just have to like immerse yourself and find the wins, find the pressure points, and tackle those first. I think we do a really nice job of figuring out how to do the easy wins, and then tackling the really big fish for us. And I think that's been a huge opportunity. The other thing is we are not afraid to say we got it wrong. So we redid our management of change. We've kind of reinvented that. We retrained on it. We realized we made it too complicated. And so as admin in the system, we were really proud of something that we built, and then we realized it really didn't work. And so not being afraid to step back and say, hey, we've put too much on it, or we need to change this. Let's make this better.
I love it. One of the hardest things to say is we got it wrong, right? But having that bravery to actually, and the courage to say that, and then to scrap what you've worked on.
Yes.
Yeah, that takes a lot. Well, Bryn, I know you're always so willing to talk to us about your journey. I know you're willing to talk to anyone else today and throughout the conference, but really appreciate you being here. Congrats on all the change that you've driven, and let's thank Bryn.